Welcome to the Red Pill Sports and Entertainment Show. I am your host, Albert Apache, and as usual, we are brought to you by Open Source Self-Defense, Fitness, and Grappling. Okay, guys, so it's been a while since we've done a review, and today we're going to review the Self-Defense Unit or Fundamentals Unit by Rickson Gracie. I believe it's with or in association Galar.com is the hosting website. So I wanted to talk about this system because it's really one of the things that fascinates me in the world of selling jiu-jitsu products, this new focus on what is and is not fundamentals. Oh, by the way, I'm outside recording today, so if you hear some background noises, water, whatnot, it's just me enjoying the luxury of living in the Phoenix, Arizona greater metropolitan area and our fantastic weather. So anyhow, it really has fascinated me, this new I guess you could say obsession with foundations and fundamentals training, what makes up fundamentals, what makes up foundations, what is and isn't a blue belt, who should and shouldn't be teaching these techniques, and all of this type of discussion and debate. And so Rickson has been very vocal about his critique of modern jiu-jitsu and sport jiu-jitsu. He's been very vocal that, self-defense has to be something that is part of the jiu-jitsu learning, and that it needs to be part of the style, and that it needs to be taught. And he put together his own, if you will, beginner's course. I want to say the course was about $200. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it now off the top of my head. I probably should have written it down. But I want to say that I got some type of discount and ended up paying just under $200 for the program. And it has quite a bit of pieces to it. Took me a couple of months to go through the entire thing. I wanted to go through each individual technique and each little tidbit. So each technique kind of has the technique itself, and then another link that you can click on that can take you a little bit deeper. I'm not in love with the way that the program is structured online, the way that it flows. I really wish it was laid out in a different format that was easier to use. I don't think it's very user-friendly if you go through the program and then you want to go back. If you followed it, linearly, point A, point B, point C, and you did every single little, supporting video as you went along, that would be fine. But if you ever want to go back to a video, to a specific point, I don't feel like it's very user-friendly the way that it's set up. I don't think it's set up to use on mobile devices very well, which right now is primarily what we view a lot of digital content on. While a lot of people do like to use PCs still, I mean, if we're going to be honest, most people are either on some type of tablet, iPad, or they're using, their handheld mobile phone, iPhone or Android, to view the material. And so that being said, I really feel like it should have been laid out in a more, being that it is, or the only option I saw was online, being that it is exclusively an online product, it should have been laid out in a more user-friendly for the mobile device user than, say, the PC device user. But I digress. So I went through the program, took me a couple of months. And it took me a couple of months because I wanted to take the time to go through each technique, actually absorb what was being said, kind of mull over it, kind of compare it to what I've seen in other systems, what things really take note of what things were being covered uh, in Hickson's system or Hickson's unit that were not covered in, let's say, like the Gracie Combatives program, or what I might have learned at Jiu-Jitsu class, live from a live instructor. And what I found was is that a lot of the details and the explanation of where the leverage comes from was really insightful. It was very, very insightful. Now, the details as far as the technique and executing the technique were not at the same level as the combatives videos were. The combatives video gave you a lot more detail on, like, place your hand here, move your hips there, thread your arm this way over this arm. They were much more detailed in that aspect. Where Hickson's self-defense unit really excelled was explaining to you where the leverage was coming from in the technique, and therefore why it was important to, say, for instance, use your hip in such a way, right? Like, for instance, I believe he does like a hip toss, or like a Seoinage type of throw. I can't remember exactly what throw it is, but he explains the importance of using your hip to basically lift the person up, to push your hip, to manipulate your hip, and use it as a leverage point, right? He talks about it. And he explains how, yeah, in drilling, your buddy is just going to let you throw him. But when he doesn't want to let you throw him and he tries to be heavy, even just a little bit, you're not going to throw him. If he doesn't want to be thrown, you're not going to throw him without his help, unless you apply the leverage properly. And so I really felt like those details were very, very valuable. Now, where I think the beyond the organization of the program and being easy to use, what I also felt was missing from the program, or where I felt combatives offered a little bit better value, or had a little bit better advice, was in the sense that, number one, it kind of showed you how you could practice the techniques by yourselves, combatives, that is. It kind of showed you how you could practice all on your own without a partner. Number two, it showed you how to drill with a partner. Number three, it had in the Gracie Combatives what they called the fight simulation drills, which was essentially chaining one technique to another technique, and possibly putting together a 2 or 3 technique chain together. And those kinetic chains are very, very important. When we learn a sport, or when you learn a new skill, many times what happens, and I used to see this a lot in soccer when I coached young girls to play soccer. I would get these girls on my team who had, like, for instance, an amazing ability to shoot the ball. They could really take a really nice shot, but because of the way they had been coached, they would shoot the ball and they would think the play was over at that point, and they wouldn't follow up on the shot and go after the ball after the shot was done. And so essentially I had to build the kinetic chain into them, and the mentality that, it's not over until it's over. And so just because you shot the ball doesn't mean it's over. And that's very similar kind of mentality when it comes to jiu-jitsu and grappling, whether we're talking sport or whether we're talking self-defense. Just because you've got out of bottom of the fight, let's say you're a mount and you roll the person over and you're now in top position, but you're still kind of in their guard, the fight is not over, okay? It's not over until you submit them or you escape, depending on what the situation is. If we're talking sport jiu-jitsu, it's not over till you submit them. So you still have to, now that you're on top, you still got to break open the guard, pass the guard, achieve a dominant position, get your submission. If we're talking self-defense, you still have to be able to break the guard if they're holding the guard on you, if they have any kind of, concept, because maybe they've watched a couple of MMA fights, they're holding you with their legs. You have to be able to break that guard, stand up effectively without losing your balance, and exit without taking unnecessary damage, such as, an up kick or something of that nature, or preventing them from being able to still grab onto you or re-tackle you, right? So there's still parts of that technique that have, or additional techniques that have to be chained together. And the Gracie combative system really did a good job of chaining techniques together that made logical sense for you to drill in their fight simulation drills, where the Rickson Gracie self-defense unit really didn't do that as much, right? And they were possibly in there somewhere, but like I said, the fact that the site was so hard to use, it took me so much time to go through every single technique and then every single little detail video that maybe I missed it, or maybe it's buried in there somewhere and I just didn't see it. But because it wasn't part of the entire lesson, if you will, would be easily missed. Next, the other thing that Gracie Combatives did very well, or that they offer that I did not see in a similar offer from the Galar.com, was the idea of you can videotape yourself doing these techniques and send them in and allow us to critique you. Now, I don't think that you should be getting belt promotions via videotape, but you can definitely get pointers via videotape. I mean, you can definitely get coached via video. It's actually one of the newest innovations in fitness right now with the new high-speed streaming abilities, is that you're seeing people getting coached via, like, they have the new product, the Mirror, of course, the Peloton bike. People don't even know this, but there are now personal trainers that are doing exclusively personal training via online services. So they have clients, sometimes they might be located here in Phoenix, Arizona, and they're coaching clients that are, in Massachusetts somewhere, right? And because they happen to mesh very well, and so now they can coach them and give them pointers through their exercises, because, well, I can see what you're doing. I can ask you to set up the camera however I want and give you the pointers. And if we're going to be absolutely 100% real, most of the time, you're not going to clean up your technique in one time of doing it. So the idea that you're going to get it perfect and coach it perfect the first time is just not reality. If that was the case, you wouldn't have, wide receivers still learning technique for running routes when they're in the NFL, right? Because they'd have been taught the first time when they were in Pop Warner football, and they would never have to learn how to run that route ever again, right? So, the reality is that we constantly get coaching. We're constantly refining little details in our techniques. And so that was one thing that, the combative system offers, that the Rickson Gracie system I didn't see, at least Galar.com. I didn't see them offer that. Now, maybe it was offered on some other portion of their site, because they also, offer other coaches and other programs there. I don't want to, because I didn't buy any of those other programs, I don't want to get too into that. But there is, other systems or other coaches that you can possibly buy products from. I believe Renzo Gracie is if you will, the sport jujitsu side of the site. So you can definitely subscribe to that, and maybe that's an offer for them. I have no idea. I didn't really explore that. That wasn't something that I wanted to look at. So all in all, if I had to rate the system and I had to give you a thumbs up or thumbs down to purchase it, I would say that if you have any kind of jujitsu experience, it's an absolute thumbs up to understand some of the questions probably that you had about why techniques work, and to clarify and make your techniques that much more efficient. If you were like a blue belt or a purple belt, because some of the concepts that he talks about are a little bit deeper than what their traditional hobbyist slash I just want to learn self-defense comes in for a year maybe, and then they kind of start slacking off and they're only there like maybe once a week at the most, right? That kind of person that really doesn't really care. I mean, even though they should, and they should probably be the one that cares more since they're not there very often. But anyhow, I digress. It might not be the same value to that person, especially because of the lack of explaining how to drill with a partner. As far as star wise, if we're going on a 5-star system, I probably am going to rate this like a 3.0. And the only reason why it's a 3.0 is because of cost. I felt like it was a bit pricey for what it was providing, and due to the low user friendliness, right? It is so non-user friendly. It is not easy to navigate. It is not easy to use. It doesn't flow very easily. It's not really easy to go back and pick up like, oh, well, I wanted to go back to this specific thing. It's not real easy to use on a mobile device. I did find it easier to use on the PC, but on my mobile devices, it really wasn't easy to use. Now, you'll see that there are a ton of reviews and they're all positive on the website. I don't know if that's just, people being scared to be critical. They think that being critical of the system means you're critical of Rickson Gracie. Being critical of the curriculum or the course is a personal jab at Rickson. I highly doubt. I don't believe that at all. Like I said, I really liked a lot of the information that did get conveyed. I thought it was amazing. What it actually did for me was think that, holy cow, if I ever have the opportunity, I really need to get in a class with Rickson Gracie if I ever have that opportunity. That being said, I don't think Rickson was a person putting this system together. I don't think he was a person, while, yeah, I think he, put the system together in concept. I'm pretty sure he wasn't the person that was editing the film, decided how the flow of the website was going to go. I don't think he was that person. So, and if he was, then maybe, maybe there is some disconnect, and maybe that, is a shot at him. I don't think it is. I think I'm just trying to be honest, and comparing to what most people, go with. And it's just my opinion. You might get on there and think that, it's amazing, the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you might think it's a 5-star program. I think it's a 3-star program. I mean, if I was giving it, out of all the stars, it would be a 3-star program just based on price and user friendliness. Now, as far as information, it's a definite 5. It's a definite 5-star program as far as the details and information it gives. I would say it's probably a 3-star program due to the nature of not explaining to you how to drill with your partner, not explaining to you, giving you the chain of techniques that you can what techniques chain together really well and seamlessly. So that maybe not so great. Because let's be real, when it comes to a fundamentals program, most people want to be spoon fed. Even though that's not necessarily the best way to learn, they want to be spoon fed. And they want to be told to practice exactly this way and that way, and whatever the case may be. And like it or not, to a lot of people, $100 or more for a online course is quite a bit of money. Now, you can blame BJJ Fanatics for that if you want. You can blame YouTube for that if you want. But the reality is that people think, you look at BJJ Fanatics, for instance, you can get a lot of information from a $19 course, from a $47 course. So, people have this unrealistic expectation that, well, for anything over $100, I better be getting amazing coaching. I better be getting everything spoon-fed to me, and I shouldn't have to think, right? That's what people assume. So, that's why I'm giving it the star rating that I am, is based on, I'm kind of trying to put myself in the position of the average consumer that really is a beginner and is thinking about which program should I purchase. Again, we're going thumbs up, thumbs down. This system for the true beginner, I would have to say thumbs down. Not unless you're going to be in a actual jiu-jitsu academy or grappling school or whatever, where you're going to be able to use these techniques and practice them with a live person that actually understands what you're trying to do, right? Otherwise, I don't think it's for the true beginner person. It's for the person who probably has gaps in their jiu-jitsu because they jumped into jiu-jitsu and they like the sport of it, and for whatever reason the self-defense and fundamentals got lost in the process of them getting promoted. I think that's who this course is very, very good for. If you were asking me for a complete beginner, or let's say somebody who lived out in Alaska and they had a couple of buddies that would be willing to train with them, do I invest the $200 in Gracie Combatives, or do I invest, the $200 in the Rickson Gracie system? Have you ever grappled before? They say no. I've never done anything before. I would have to say that I would still lean towards the Gracie Combatives. I feel like overall, as a learning system, it's more complete. It has more tools in the toolbox. So that's just my opinion. I hope nobody takes that personally. I don't want to get choked out or beat up or anything, but I have to be honest in what my opinion is. So anyhow, there you have it. Okay, guys, that's all we got for that. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, red pill alert. On to the next topic. If you're easily offended and you're a politically correct person, the best thing you can do right now is actually stay tuned and listen, because you probably need to get your skin thickened a bit. But that being said, you may want to go elsewhere, because I'm going to say some stuff that is not politically correct and definitely not popular, especially with feminists. So, as some of you may or may not know, one of the reasons why I do jiu-jitsu, one of the reasons why open source self-defense exists, is because I believe in my why, I guess, is to restore and reintroduce traditional healthy masculinity into our culture. Now, part of that is by combating very bad ideas. And sometimes people think of masculinity and they think that that's a strictly men's issue, and it is not. It also affects our young women and our daughters. And so, that being said, this is why traditional masculinity in this case needs to be protected, defended, reintroduced. Look, Harvey Weinstein, however you want to pronounce his name, he's going on trial soon. So the whole Me Too movement and rape culture and patriarchy and all these other things are going to be in the news again. And here's the thing, guys. They are very, very dangerous, bad ideas, and especially for our daughters. Okay? What it does is it promotes this idea that somehow you can teach these very evil people that do these things not to do them. It, in essence, almost takes the responsibility off of the individual and puts it on the culture. Furthermore, it gives this false sense of security to our daughters. I have 3 of them, so I care very deeply about this subject. It gives our daughters this false sense of security that you can rationalize with a sexual predator. And that's just not the case. That is a folly beyond follies to teach our daughters that nonsense. Okay? Rape is not the product of the supposed attitude we give boys of boys being boys. Okay, it's not the product of that. It's not the product of rape culture. It's not the product of patriarchy. It's not the product of masculinity or quote unquote toxic masculinity. Okay, it's not the product of any of those things. Rape is a product of very sick, demented individuals that choose to hurt people. Most of the time, you will find that these individuals that do these horrendous things are overall just shitty people. Okay? You will find that most likely they will take advantage of anybody that they can take advantage of. Maybe not sexually, but they will. In other words, if they can bring themselves to a point of not having any empathy to go ahead and force themselves sexually on a woman, then they really don't have the empathy really to deal with anybody on a human level. I mean, that just stands to reason. And so, my friends, I'm going to ask you to please shield your sons, shield your daughters from this ridiculous notion, because it's dangerous. It's dangerous, number one, because it gives these false senses of ideas to our daughters, which puts them in harm's way. Okay? It's dangerous because it tears down our boys, essentially telling them you're just a robot that gets programmed, and pretty much we can put into your brain whatever you want and you have no individual, choice. Kind of gives them that kind of an attitude. And on top of that, I just don't like the idea of some of the messages we're sending boys with that. And then lastly, what it does is it scapegoats for the actual individual that commits these very disgusting acts. Well, if somebody would have taught them not to rape, are you kidding me? You gotta be kidding me, right? Well, it's rape culture. No, this person's just a sick individual that needs to be dealt with. They are not a product of some culture, okay? So, anyhow, I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to put it out on the forefront because, honestly, my friends, it's time for us to start being frank and defending traditional, healthy masculinity. It's time for us to do that. Okay? And defending masculinity does not mean that we're attacking femininity.
It means that they are supposed to exist in a balance. Yin and yang, male and female. They are supposed to exist in harmony. Our culture, Western culture, has gone way too far to the feminine. And it started long, long ago. I know some of you all will want to blame the millennials, but that's not the case. Okay, the reality is this slip to femininity, to the Gorgon side of femininity, right? To the Medusa side of femininity started long ago. Okay, we can debate how long ago that was another time. But now is the time for action, and it's a time to talk about it, and it's a time to know that we need to defend our traditional healthy masculinity. Okay, guys, so that's all I got for that topic, and we are running a bit out of time. We are running long. So, some things that we need to talk about. I'm going to try and get a show out about, or a tidbit, a morsel, about the McGregor Cowboy fight. I really want to start dissecting and exploring and do a couple of shows from each angle, Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. And of course, before the fight comes up, I want to talk about Reyes and John Jones. And the NFL season is coming to an end, so we need to talk about my very lowly Cowboys, what they're doing with their coaching staff, what they're doing with their players, and how that all relates to the rest of the NFL and, of course, playoff football, because it's fun. So, talk about that. Next time, I'm going to try and get into, we're going to try and get the John Danaher system. I'm going to try and get a hold of that, download it, the Foundations Fundamentals system. I think it's pins and pin escapes, and go through that. And that way we can then do a 3-way. Actually, you know what? I believe I saw that there is the Gracie Baja beginning system on YouTube. Somebody must have uploaded it, so I'll take a look at that as well. And that way we can kind of go, if you're going to learn at home via video, what is the best system? How do you use it? How do you implement it? And what's probably good for, an experienced person, a blue belt, a purple belt, that's going back and trying to fill in gaps. So we'll get to those hopefully soon too. We got some other stuff that we need to go over, because I've gone over some other content as well that I've been implementing into my jiu-jitsu game, and it's been working fantastic. And some other things that I've been trying to implement and I'm not having a lot of success, so maybe you all have some commentary that you can lend to say, hey, do this or that, try this or that. All right, guys. So until we see you next time, remember, be practical, be purposeful, get fit with a purpose.